Hello all my inspirations and welcome to Inspirational by Marie. If you are new to my platform, I welcome you with love. We are a family here, so please get involved. Today we've got an interesting topic and we're going to be discussing 5 ways on how to forgive someone who has hurt you. But before we get into that video, please be sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell. All right, so forgiveness is such a delicate topic. One definition of forgiveness is letting go of the need for revenge and releasing negative thoughts of bitterness and resentment. Now, if we look at society, even people that you may know, people that, well, I'm a social worker for those who don't know. So I've heard a lot about a lot of injustices that may have happened to people. So we're talking about abuse, whether that's sexual abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, physical abuse, if I haven't said that already, just a lot of things. If we look at society, we're seeing people that are even going under legal injustices. When we're talking about people that are serving time that they shouldn't be serving in prison, even in your family or even yourself, to be honest, you could have gone through things that really are just terrible things that when you listen and hear them, you just feel like, or even think of it, you don't feel comfortable. Okay, so I just want to set that little foundation. When we look at the likes of even Nelson Mandela, how many years he spent in prison, there's just so many injustices that have happened in the world, and people still have found it in themselves to forgive. Forgiveness is not, I don't think it's an easy thing. I'm not gonna lie. This is something that is depending on what you've been through, who you've gone through it with, who has hurt you. It's not easy to forgive. It really does take the grace of God. All right, so I just want to lay that foundation, and I want to ask a question, because I like to ask my questions. When you have forgiven somebody, or if you think of a time when you've forgiven somebody, how has that made you feel? Or even if you have been forgiven, how has that made you feel? I want to know, because I think that there is power even in forgiving somebody, or being the person that has been forgiven rather. Okay, so tip number 1, right? Address your feelings and sit with them firstly. Now, this is important for us to acknowledge what it is that has actually made us feel upset, what has made us feel sad. We have to identify those things. For some people it could be embarrassment, for some people it could be disappointment, for some people it could be disrespect. You understand? And remember that with these type of things, you can be in the same situation with someone, but that person could be feeling sad, you could be feeling embarrassed. So just because you go through the same thing as someone, our emotions and our feelings and how we feel about it may actually be different. Okay, so in order to forgive somebody, basically what I'm saying is identify your emotions. There is a school of thought that suggests that before someone is angry, they actually have felt an emotion before that. They've had some sort of feeling. Like I said already, it could be that they felt sad before they became angry. It could be that they felt hurt before they became angry. It could be that they felt embarrassed before they became angry. Do you get where I'm coming from? All right, so just bear that in mind when it comes to forgiveness. Acknowledge it. Now, I've noticed that one thing that we, or even myself, to be honest, I think when it comes to forgiveness, there's something about the person that has offended us or has caused us this harm, right? If they haven't acknowledged it, or if they haven't apologized, it can cause a lot of pain and anger. If you look back at a situation that you've been through, and I look back at certain situations that I've been through, or certain situations I've been in, and the fact that they haven't actually acknowledged what they've done to me, or they haven't apologized to me, it has caused me a lot more confusion about that situation. I feel like there's no resolution, so how do I move on? Because they haven't acknowledged it. But what I am here to say today is that we have no choice but to actually accept that it's happened. Accept that it's happened and move on in our minds. Now, what I think I mean by that, or what I'm saying, or what I'm trying to get across to everybody, is we should try not to keep on, you can be in a situation and you could be like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened. It could be 2 years on, and you could be fully like, I can't believe this has happened to me. I can't believe this has happened. Why did this happen? How did they do it? I've been there. And to be honest, sometimes I still even bring it up. I'll be like, what the hell? Like, what situation was I in? What was that all about? Now, the thing with that is, it's like you're reliving the experience in your mind again. It's like you're reliving that situation in your mind again. All those emotions that you're trying to let go of, actually, you're inviting it right back. Do you get what I'm saying? So even if you are going to say, I can't believe this has happened, maybe it'll be good for us to say things like, I can't believe this has happened, but thank God that we're this. But I learned this out of that situation. But actually, now I can teach others not to do it this way. You get where I'm coming from? Always, whenever there's a negative experience or situation, counteract it with something positive. That is literally the rebound. That's the reflex that we're going to apply. Tip number 2. Understand what it is to forgive. Forgiveness does not mean you should forget the incident. I know sometimes we hear forgive and forget, which is true, and I'll explain that later on. However, we are human beings and we are not robots. So we're going to remember things. We're going to think about things that sometimes it could even go back years ago. And to be honest, in my personal opinion, I think it's good to actually remember. I think sometimes it helps us to protect ourselves and to not actually make the same mistake time and time again. Let's say, for example, you were telling your friend maybe a secret, and maybe she told somebody else, and you told her another secret, and she told another person, and then you told her something else, and then she told another person. You can see that's becoming a cycle. So in that case, I would actually remember that person is actually not trustworthy in that department. So that means that I would need to be careful of what I share with that person to actually protect myself. So in some cases, it is actually good to not forget. And it doesn't mean you haven't forgiven, but it's just that you're being wise about your decisions and your decision making when it comes to relationships. All right. So forgiveness also doesn't mean that you need to tell the person that they are forgiven. Now, this is a funny one because sometimes I think that we feel like we may have to tell our, like, for example, I was on Twitter the other day and I saw somebody tweeted that they had told their ex that she had forgiven him. And I thought to myself, wow, I wonder how he would respond to that. Does he even care? Or maybe he does care. Who knows? But let's say, for example, you're talking to a narcissist and what you're telling them, you're saying to them that I've forgiven you. And they may even hurt you more and say, well, I didn't do anything to you, or some people may not even think they've even done or offended you in the first place. So be very careful of that so that it doesn't get thrown back in your face. I believe that we should be wise about these things also. In some cases, it is actually good and a positive thing and a very powerful thing to tell people that you have forgiven them. I will give you an example. I was watching a documentary the other day and it was a lady and she was driving and unfortunately she had hit a young boy and he had passed away. Now the young boy was with his father and the father had met the girl that had, hit his son, and he said to her that I have forgiven you. And that meant the world to her in order for her to move on. Now, it doesn't mean that she wasn't going to serve time. She was still going to go to prison and everything, but that meant something to her. So in some cases, yes, telling people that you have forgiven them is a very powerful tool that I believe God uses to set people free, But in some cases, we have to be careful that when you're telling people that you've forgiven them, don't let that person get the power back by saying, well, you did, don't open that door again. Remember, forgiveness is really supposed to set us free, first and foremost. But in other cases, like I said, it can set another person free too. Tip number 3, own your feelings. So this is also an important tip because we have to also understand or think about reasons why we are finding it hard to forgive if we are. So could it be that you are consumed with feeling like you want revenge or payback. In some cases, we're like, you know what? Nah, I need to get that person back. I'm not letting it go. So for that reason, of course, we're not going to be able to forgive because we want to pay them back. And that is totally the opposite of forgiveness. So could it be that we are consumed with our, feelings, our thoughts, the negativity, the hurt, the pain, and for that reason, we can't let go? This is something that we should also think about if we can't forgive. It could be a reason. Also, do you like seeing yourself as a victim as opposed to a survivor? Now, when it comes to unforgiveness and us being hurt, I do feel like it puts us in a kind of like a victimized state almost. And sometimes we could even be comfortable in this state because we want to kind of tell people that this is what they've done to me, and it could be like a comfort zone as opposed to, yes, this is what the person's done to me, but I survived it and this is what I'm doing to move on and I have forgiven them. So you see what I'm saying? So sometimes it could be the fact that we actually want to remain as a victim in the situation. Also, it could also be that we don't know how to actually resolve the circumstance. Sometimes we don't even know how to forgive. We don't have any ill feelings. We might even just be indifferent about the situation. But actually it's because we don't know how to resolve it. Some of us don't know how to deal with confrontation. Some of us are afraid of it. There are many reasons, and it's important that we actually identify and own our feelings in order for us to move on effectively. This one is also quite funny and interesting. But does that situation give you the adrenaline, or the anger? Have you ever heard of that phrase where people say, success is the best revenge? So every time you think of that situation, that fuels you to do more or to do better. It fuels you to like go harder, grind harder. It fuels you to do it. But actually, that's actually stopping us from forgiving. We don't need that person to actually provide the anger in us to make us go harder, to make us grind, or to make us hustle more. We are already enough. God has given us that tool. We don't need that person to remind us. If you're doing it already, best believe you're doing it because it's already inside of you, not because of that person providing you the anger to do it. Now remember, it's all to do with what's in our soul bank as well. We don't want to feed off that. We don't want to be sitting there like, oh man, today I'm tired, and then you remember that what someone did to you and you're like, oh yeah, I'm amped again, I want to go. Do you get what I mean? God has already given you, and we are to live a peaceful life. God does not want us to live a life of confusion or up and down. You understand? He's given us a life of peace. So please bear that in mind if that is where your drive is coming from. Tip number 4. Think about the other person and why they may have hurt you. So this may be quite difficult to do, but sometimes getting an understanding of somebody's upbringing, somebody's, morals, values, ethics, things like that can give you an understanding of why they may have offended you or why they may have put you through what you went through. This may also help us to forgive that person. Not everybody has the same mindset as us, and not only will it help us to give us a better understanding of, why they did what they did, but I think it actually adds to the empathy that we can have for the person. That I feel will help us to forgive them easier. So sometimes in life, I guess things may happen, and then I may, let's say for example, discuss it with my mum, and I may say that I don't know why this person spoke to me at work. I don't know why they spoke to me like this at work. I don't understand them. This is that. And my mum's like, we don't know how they have been raised, what their background is, what they consider to, be normal, or what they consider for a normal interaction. We don't know where people's backgrounds are. We may not have had that same experience growing up, because a lot of times the way we do things in life, it is to do sometimes with our environment, and can be to do with nature and nurture also. So these things are actually, we should bear them in mind. Understand that people don't always see things how we see things. So sometimes us being aware of this can help us to forgive somebody in the long run. Tip number 5, let go to move on. Sometimes forgiving may take months, sometimes even years. But think about that situation and just think about the control it may have had or has over your life. You know, some people may have even moved on. Some people may not even remember what they have done, you know, to us. And yet we are still allowing this situation to have control of us. We have to make that decision and really find ways that we can actually let go and move on from it. Whether that's through therapy, you know, whether that's through having a journal, like I always say, writing down your feelings daily, having someone to speak to, you know, even writing a letter about that situation, ripping it up, screwing it up, scrunching it up and throwing it away or burning it, you know, really, because we don't want anything in our lives to be taking up unnecessary space. We can be using our energy on so many other things that God has in store for us. We don't want that situation. I know it's hard. You understand? I get it. I understand that it can be so hard, but I want us to really enjoy and maximize the quality of our lives. You know, whether, like I said before, whether you need to go therapy, also pray to God. Don't forget to pray to God, because without God, I think personally, it is impossible in some cases to forgive people. I'm sorry, but I really do. I think it takes the grace of God. There's some things that physically, as human beings, with our mindset, we can't see beyond. And I think it does take the grace of God to literally pour his spirit into us so we can see things how he sees things. And so it'll be easy for us to actually do things the way he wants us to do things. So connect with God. Speak to God about that situation that you're finding it hard. And don't ever think what your offense is too small. If it hurt you, it hurt you. If the person hasn't said sorry to you and you're hurt, you're hurt. You understand? And if you feel like it's still a part of you today, it's fair enough. Like I said, one person's situation, what they may be, we might all go through the same things, but we may all take it differently and react to it differently. So don't be embarrassed either. You know, God is there for us. And just to round up, I want to just say, the Bible says, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. Amen. So this is what God does require from us all. I really hope this whole message on 5 tips on how to forgive the person who has hurt you has really helped somebody out there. It is a journey, but we will get there by the grace of God. All right? Until next time, be inspired, be encouraged, be blessed. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell. I love you all, and I'll see you soon. Mwah!